Welcome to Insights into Insurance with Tom Sorensen of Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.
Saturday morning here on KATE, and it's time for Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance's Tom Sorensen. And Tom, a little bit milder weather. Good morning to you.
Good morning there, Paul. Yeah, this mild weather is, I think, are we living in Minnesota?
I said that to someone the other day, and it feels like we've turned the corner, but I know we haven't.
Oh, boy, that's a scary thought.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that just put the hex on it right there.
It's like, better not say that out loud.
Yeah.
But I did, so I'm sorry for everyone. We get 5 more weeks of winter, whatever it is. Tom, by the way, I just want to say I've gotten stopped, it must have been 2 weeks ago and last week, with people really finding it intriguing, some of the topics we've gone to, because now they realize what they finally have.
Well, that's great to hear, because sometimes I wonder, oh boy, I'm going to do a show on insurance, and to me it's like, boy, that can be a real boring topic. But truthfully, I've had many people too that have came up to me and said, oh, I enjoy listening to that show. It's just amazing, the things that I didn't know. So you're right, and I believe that's what you're probably hearing there. So thanks.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of jump into it again with another email, because I know this is something that you talked to me a little bit off the air, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So.
Right. Yep. Now you got to go home and do some homework.
Yeah, I do. Hello, Tom. My agent keeps talking about special form coverage on my house. I am too embarrassed to ask what it is because he talks like I should know. Can you explain it to me? What is special form coverage? From Robert.
Robert? Well, first of all, thank you for the email. Second of all, please do not be embarrassed to ask your agent questions, okay? Sometimes us agents, we can probably start talking our own industry lingo and just think that, it just comes off of our tongue naturally, and it's not natural to the other side of the desk, okay, to the people that are sitting across the side of the desk. And so I try to catch myself sometimes when I'm doing those things, and I said, oh, just a second here. I'm using insurance lingo. I'm using insurance talk, and I'll try to break it down a little bit to make it more understandable for my clients.
Sure.
So user-friendly. So special form. Well, along with special form, there are few things that we need to talk about to explain to get to special form.
All right.
Okay. So when you're talking the types of coverages, and this is all going to pertain to either homeowners, commercial, or renters.
All right.
And it's always going to pertain to like buildings or personal property or some type of property. It's not going to be anything with liability or anything like that. It's always going to deal with property. Okay. So special form is what we would call the best type of coverage that you can buy on any type of property.
All right.
Okay. But let me walk through the steps to how to get to special form, okay? And then the next thing is, what is a form, okay? Some people, well, what
I
does
fill
that
those
mean?
out.
Right. And truthfully, that is actually what it means, okay? So there's 3 types of coverages. There's basic, broad, and special form. All of them say basic form, broad form, special form. Well, form, what does it mean? It means that part of your policy, the contract that you have of the insured, there is in there an actual form, a piece of paper that states what basic form coverages, what is broad form, what is special form. Okay, so it is actually a form. Most people wouldn't think of that it's actually a piece of paper. Okay, and the other thing is that policy that you get in the mail is actually a contract between you and the insurance company. You promise to pay the premium, they promise to deliver the coverages that are in that policy. Okay? And the key components to that policy is the forms, the coverages.
Okay.
All right? So, basic form.
Let's start at the beginning, right?
Let's start at basic. Basic form. Its coverages include, in a typical basic form policy, are fire, lightning, windstorm or hail, explosion, vandalism, aircraft or vehicle collision, riot or civil commotion, sinkhole collapse, volcanic activity, and vandalism and malicious mischief. That's what the basic form covers, okay? So basically it's called a name peril coverage. So it names exactly what it covers, okay?
Now, of course, we should just preface this real quickly by saying you said coverages typically include, but you have to ask your insurance agent about what is their basic form policy.
Exactly. Sometimes it can change, okay? Or different companies could maybe add something under basic or broad or something like that. So, yes, I agree 100%. Then, from there, the next typical form of coverage is what we call broad form, okay? So, first of all, basic form was step number 1.
Okay.
So, the next one is broad form. So, what does broad form coverage? It covers everything that I just mentioned in basic.
A lot of acts of God and some other stuff.
Yep, those things that I mentioned, okay? And then it also adds burglary, break-in damage, falling objects like tree limbs, weight of ice and snow, freezing of plumbing, accidental water damage, artificially generated electricity, or basically sudden and accidental damage from electrical currents, building collapse, and accidental discharge of liquids or steam. So, if someone said, oh, you got basic form coverage, the items that I just mentioned would not be covered.
Generally,
yep. Now, if the person said, oh, you got broad form coverage, so everything generally up to now that I've mentioned would be covered. Okay?
I think I figured out what we have now for insurance on the house.
You do?
Off of what you've just listed.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say I think because, as we've stated before, every sort of form or policy is different with each insurer and in each sort of contract. So do your homework, go back and take a look at what it is.
Exactly. So that is the key, is knowing what form follows your coverage. Whether it's a homeowners or a commercial business or renter's policy, your personal property, that also is covered under either a basic, broad, or special form policy.
Now, Tom, we live in an agrarian county, so we're talking right now a lot about homes, but is there some sort of farm or agricultural policy or form that people could be under?
Well, yeah, and if you have the broad form as far as agricultural, you would add to that probably collision or overturn, basically machinery as an example, death of livestock, of electrocution, attack by dogs or wild animals, accidental shooting or drowning of your livestock, okay? So those are things that can be part of a broad coverage form on a, let's say, a farm policy, again, generally.
Now, we will be back in just a little bit, Tom, because we've covered step 1 and step 2 of what kind of a form insurance would be, basic and broad.
Right.
And now we're going to answer the question when we come back, what is special form insurance?
Right. That'll be step 3, yep.
We'll be back in 30 seconds.
You know that saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket? It doesn't make any sense. Try juggling 5 baskets full of eggs. You'll see what we mean. It's the same with insurance. At Americana Insurance, we say, go ahead, put all your eggs in one basket. Just make sure it's a darn good basket. You already trust us for farm and business insurance, so get the same great service for home, life, and auto. And if the eggs ever hit the fan, wouldn't you rather deal with one basket of insurance than 5? Americana. Give us a call at 377-2000 or just drop by.
Back here on Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance's Tom Sorensen. And Tom, we're talking today about special form coverage. We've covered basic, we've covered broad, now special.
Now special form. Yep. Now special form is like what I told you is the best potential coverage that you could have. Many homeowners have special form, but you need to be aware there's some out there that got basic or broad. Okay, so they need to check on that. Okay, so basic and broad form, what you need to do is, if in a claim situation you need to read what is covered, it's basically what we call name peril coverages. Under name peril coverage, basic or broad, the insured or policyholder may have to prove that a loss was caused by a listed peril.
So what we listed before.
Yep. So basically, on those items that I listed out before, if they fall under any one of those coverages, there's coverage. Okay. Now, special form is different, almost acts opposite. You should read what isn't covered, exclusions first, because special form, the burden is on the insurance company to prove why a loss isn't covered. Okay, so if it's not excluded, you can feel pretty comfortable that it's covered under special form.
See, now I don't know what kind of insurance I have again.
I figured when you were saying that you might not know. I'm guessing that you have special form, but those are great things to check on. So everything is typically covered under a special form policy except for these common exclusions. Ordinance of Law, and I talked about that last week actually. So Ordinance of Law is coverage for loss caused by enforcement of ordinance or laws regulating construction and repair of damaged building. So basically, if you had an older structure, half of it's gone, and so you need to rebuild half of it, but the other half has to have updates to it because of code. That would not be typically covered under your homeowner's policy or commercial policy unless you have an additional coverage of Ordinance of Law, which I feel is very important to have, but that's an exclusion. Okay. Government action. Okay.
Eminent domain.
Well, what I'm talking here about government action is, matter of fact, I think this happened, was it in New Ulm or something, just like a couple years ago, where there was a downtown fire. Okay. And to stop the fire, they literally had to go and try to demolish one of the buildings so that the fire would stop there. Okay,
All
so
right.
let's say you own that building.
I'd be upset, I think.
Well, yeah, you would be. Now, that would be covered. Okay?
All right.
But now, let's say that you were a landlord and you had a house that you have insured and you had, I don't know, let's just say drug dealers in there or something, and the cops went in and they had to shoot it up or blow it up or whatever. And because if it was a government action, that would not be covered. That's an excluded to the policy.
Okay.
There's many different examples you can use there, but earthquake or earth movement is not covered. Example that we had in Albert Lea not too few years ago. Remember when they were redoing the viaduct over here?
Yes.
And there was that pounding. We had houses down there that actually had damage done to their housing because of the earth movement. Okay.
Yep.
Now, under the policy that they had, they weren't covered. Thank God, though, that the company that does that is got insurance to be able to cover, because that's part of their, basically when they charge somebody, whoever it is, to build those bridges, they put that in their fee also, basically saying, hey, we're going to have some damages here, so they pay for that. So so that's one of those things that they did pay for.
Okay.
Flood is an exclusion, power failure, neglect, war, nuclear hazard, and intentional acts.
Okay. Pretty basic there.
So if I went and tried to burn my house down, that's an intentional act. That would not be covered. It's an exclusion. It's also against the law, but it's an exclusion.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
So what is some things that special form that I've seen in my business or in my lifetime? A deer jumped through a picture window. Before escaping, it went wild, damaging walls and furnishings and bleeding as it ran all over the place.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
That's a special form thing. Broad form.
Not covered.
No coverage, okay? An insured was walking on the floor joist of his unfinished attic. The insured slipped off the joist and fell through the living room ceiling, causing extensive damage, okay? Covered under special form. I got a bunch of them here, but, the key one, though, especially now that we're in winter, is ice damming of roofs, okay? It can be a very expensive item, okay? To have water ice damming on the roof, what happens is that water runs down inside the walls and through the walls, and boy, water can run a long ways. So you could experience having to replace a whole side of a wall of a house or something like that. So special form covers that.
I'll tell you a funny story about that, Tom, off the air, as we're out of time today.
Okay.
If people have questions, or better yet, they say, Tom, you sold me. I need to make sure I have special form coverage. I am up for my homeowner's insurance. I'm not sure I'm going to re-up. I want to call you. What's the number?
507-377-2000.
And the email for questions?
Email for questions is insights@americanainsurance.com. And also, if you would like to visit and read more about us, we have our website, www.americanainsurance.com.
Thanks, Tom. We'll talk again next week.
See you next week, Paul.
You've been listening to Insights into Insurance from Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is intended to be educational in nature. Before acting upon any information obtained during the Insights into Insurance radio show broadcast, consult an appropriately licensed professional.